New friends make a wild decision after their partners break up with them. The message came through with a beep, and she immediately saw that it was from him. She knew that things hadn't been going spectacularly well between them for some time, but they both had committed trying their best to make it work, and it had, for a while. But when she read the message, the words ripped through her heart. Brittany Wright lived in Dallas with her husband, but the couple had been unhappy for some time. As Brittany sat on a plane bound for Seattle, she quickly became lost in thought. She had a feeling that change was coming, but she didn't know how or when, or if it would be for better or worse. Little did she know her life would be turned upside down in just a few days. Since 2011, Brittany had focused on her work as a principal wire clerk at Gateway Mortgage Group. With an unhappy marriage on her heels, she found herself throwing herself into her career more and more. So when an opportunity came for her to attend a conference in Seattle, she didn't hesitate. After all, she reasoned, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Unbeknown to Brittany, Tyler Tips was also on his way to the same conference in Seattle, but he was traveling from Oregon as a representative from a security firm called Safe Haven Security. As their respective planes drew closer to their destination and to each other, the pair never suspected that their lives were about to cross paths, and there would be no way of undoing it. The conference seemed to go on and on. Finally, the keynote speakers had presented to the audience, and there was an intermission. People started to funnel out of the conference room to grab a cup of coffee and a snack, and that's when Tyler and Brittany locked eyes. Brittany introduced herself, and they were soon engaged in small talk, but it wasn't long before the pair started to share their secrets. Soon, Tyler and Brittany were inseparable. Tyler revealed that he was also married, but that the marriage, like Brittany's, had turned sour fairly early on. It was strictly a friendship, and we really just opened up with each other. We were both married and both in bad marriages, and confided in each other because we both understood, Brittany recalls. The pair, already interacting like old friends, even began to joke about who had the worst marriage. When I met Brittany, I was just like, hey, my marriage is way worse than your marriage, Tyler explained later. Way worse than yours is. And she was like, no, mine is way worse. When Sunday rolled around, the new friends were forced to part ways and return to their partners, so they said their goodbyes. Brittany stayed behind for a short while with some friends, while Tyler prepared for the journey back home. It was then that she received the devastating message from Dallas that shattered her world. We were both leaving on Sunday, Brittany recalled, so Tyler and I were saying goodbye, and I stayed back with some of my friends. I got a text message saying, I want a divorce. Of course, Brittany was devastated. All alone and far away from home, she cried and cried, but she wasn't the only one. Meanwhile, Tyler had been trying to contact his wife in Oregon, but he hadn't gotten a reply. Fearing the worst, he reached out to a close friend who lived in the neighborhood. But when they replied, Tyler's worst fears were confirmed. I tried calling, and the phone was off, Tyler later recalled. So I called my buddy who lives next door, and he's like, yeah, about 3 days ago I saw her driving away with a trailer full of stuff. With nobody to turn to, Tyler remembered Brittany, the woman who had been such a good friend to him at the conference. He had her number, so he called her up. When she answered, he said, you'll never guess what. In an attempt to make light of his heartbreak, then he poured his heart and soul out to her. That's when Brittany told him her own devastating news. A couple of hours after I got the text message from my husband, Tyler called and said, my wife's gone. She packed up all her stuff and left. I could hear he was just devastated, and I told him that if it made him feel any better, I'm moving out when I get home, Brittany explained. Then both Brittany and Tyler felt something inexplicable. After all, what are the odds that both Brittany and Tyler's partners had decided to leave them at the exact same time? The new friends both felt that something strange was afoot. Was it pure luck, fate, or was the universe trying to tell them something? Whatever the reason, at least they had each other, and they were determined to make the best of it. Brittany and Tyler maintained their long-distance friendship and continued to bond over the loss of their marriages. They were there for each other through the bad times and the good, and they helped each other to heal. We were both devastated. We didn't want our marriages to end, but they did, Brittany revealed in an interview. But fate had other plans for these two. Inevitably, after some time had passed, Tyler and Brittany's relationship started to become romantic. After sharing each other's pain for almost a year, the pair had their first date at a wedding they attended together in Colorado. But it wasn't until their respective divorces were finally wound up in January 2018 that Tyler decided to make a wild move. Later that month, Tyler proposed to Brittany and she accepted, but she was understandably quite hesitant to share the good news. I was more hesitant to tell everybody because I'd just gotten divorced, she said. I felt terrified. I thought people were going to judge me, but I knew that's what I wanted. But there were other obstacles the pair would have to overcome. Tyler was still living in Oregon and Brittany was still living in Dallas. Despite being engaged and living in different states, they had no immediate plans to relocate. But one day, Tyler received a call from his employer that changed everything. It turned out that his job was being transferred to the city. So he asked Tyler if he could relocate to Dallas. Tyler couldn't believe his luck and agreed immediately. I was like, this has to be a sign from God, because we weren't really talking about moving, Brittany said, describing her reaction to Tyler's good news. We were just going to be engaged and do long distance for a while. This is something that just has to be meant to be. All the stars were aligning for the pair, but would they make the most of it? Tyler recalls, I honestly feel like it was meant to be. I kid you not. I told my best friends, I told all of them, and I was like, hey man, it has to be a sign from God. All the stars are aligned, he added. Everything happened for a reason, and it was perfect. Our romance was developed around a really good, tight friendship. When I was broken down and in the worst situation I could possibly be in, she was there, Tyler said on his wedding day. Brittany shares similar feelings. I felt like God had brought a mirror in front of me because I was lying to myself, she said about her previous marriage. It drew that out of me, and it wasn't okay. Then all of a sudden, I just had this amazing guy that was everything I could have ever wanted. The wedding was perfect and took place on a breathtaking beach with Brittany and Tyler's loved ones present. I thank him for loving me in a way I never believed that I deserved to be loved, Brittany revealed before her wedding. I thank him from the bottom of my heart for loving me at a time where I felt so dead on the inside. He was a revival for me.